Officer Reynolds had done this 100 times before. A lone black woman on an empty stretch of highway. No witnesses, just him and his authority. He knew exactly how this would go. She would argue, claim to know her rights. But in the end, she would comply. They always did. But Lisa Washington wasn't like the others. He saw a civilian. He didn't see the U.S. Army colonel trained to lead, to fight, to win. He didn't realize that every order he barked was pulling him deeper into his own downfall. Before we go any further, comment where you're watching from and make sure to subscribe. The evening sun cast golden streaks across the highway as Colonel Lisa Washington guided her SUV toward home. Her military uniform was folded in a garment bag on the passenger seat, the ribbons and insignia safely tucked away. A glance at the rearview mirror showed flashing red and blue lights approaching fast. Her brows furrowed. She hadn't been speeding, hadn't swerved, hadn't broken a single law. Yet the patrol car signaled for her to pull over. Lisa sighed and steered onto the shoulder. Years of experience told her to stay calm, but something nagged. At her, there was no reason for this stop. The officer approached, his boots crunching against the gravel. The moment he reached her window, she caught the look in his eye. Not professionalism, just that thinly veiled condescension she'd encountered too many times before. "License and registration," he ordered, his tone clipped. Lisa kept her movements, deliberate as she retrieved her wallet. "Is there a problem, officer?" He barely glanced at her license before flicking his gaze back to her. "Step out of the vehicle." Her grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Excuse me?" "Step out of the vehicle," he repeated, slower this time, daring her to question him. Lisa exhaled slowly. "May I ask why I'm being stopped? I wasn't speeding, I wasn't swerving, and I'm well within my lane." The officer gave a smirk. "Suspicious activity. Step out now." She had seen this before. With measured patience, she pushed open her door and stepped out, keeping her hands visible. The officer, Reynolds, according to his nameplate, circled her SUV before turning his attention back to her. "Where are you headed?" "Home," Lisa answered. "I just left a military function." His gaze narrowed slightly. "Military, huh?" A chuckle. "And what exactly are you claiming to be?" Lisa lifted her chin, her voice unwavering. "I'm Colonel Lisa Washington, United States Army." A beat of silence, then a scoff. He looked her over again. The smirk on his face widened like he had caught her in a lie. "Oh, really? Colonel?" He dragged the word out. "You sure about that?" Lisa's jaw tightened. "Yes." He let out a small laugh. "And where's your military ID, Colonel?" Lisa reached into her blazer pocket. Nothing. Her brows furrowed as she searched but came up empty. Then it clicked. The last time she had handled it was when she changed out of her uniform, now in her locker at base. She met the officer's gaze. "I don't have my military ID on me, but—" "Uh-huh," he interrupted, his smirk growing. "How convenient," he turned her driver's license over in his hand. "No veteran status either. A whole colonel like you, no proof of it." Lisa refused to let frustration show. "This is my vehicle. My registration is in the glove compartment." "Oh, I'll be checking more." "Than that?" he said, already stepping past her toward the car. She turned sharply. "You don't have probable cause to search my vehicle." His smirk deepened. "Suspicious behavior is enough for me. And I got to say you're acting real nervous, ma'am." The way he said it, dripping in condescension, made it clear he wasn't offering respect. Lisa knew she had two choices: argue and escalate, or step back and play a different hand, and Lisa Washington never played a losing game. Lisa straightened her blazer. "As I said, I'm Colonel Lisa Washington. My ID is in my uniform at my base locker." Reynolds let out an exaggerated whistle. "So, you expect me to just take your word for it?" "It's the truth." "And yet," he mused, "I don't see Colonel written anywhere on this." He clicked his tongue. "You'd think a real soldier would make sure people knew." Lisa didn't take the bait. This wasn't about her credentials. It was about control. "Your department should have a database," she said calmly. "Run my name. You'll see my record." Reynolds let out a low chuckle. "Oh, I could, but I don't feel like it. I like to do things the old-fashioned way." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "I already complied when you asked me to step out. Now you're escalating for no reason." "Ma'am," Reynolds said, mock patience dripping from his voice, "I asked nicely. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Lisa didn't move. "I'm not stepping out unless you give me a lawful reason." Reynolds's smirk faded, replaced by something colder. "You're refusing an officer's order." "I'm refusing an unlawful request," she corrected. "You have no probable cause to search." "My vehicle." Reynolds tapped his fingers against his belt. "A driver refusing a lawful command? That sounds like resisting. And resisting. That gets ugly real fast." Lisa kept her stance firm. He was done playing. He wanted to push her, to make her react. "You wouldn't be threatening to arrest me now, would you?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. Reynolds leaned in slightly. "I'm saying, Colonel, if that's what you really are, that refusing a direct order never ends well." "I know my rights, Officer Reynolds. So either arrest me or let me go." The air between them crackled with tension. Reynolds had expected compliance, expected intimidation to do its job. But Lisa wasn't afraid of him, and that infuriated him. "Have it your way." Lisa remained still, refusing to back down. Reynolds exhaled sharply. "You're under arrest." When she didn't flinch, his lip curled, annoyance flickering in his eyes. He reached for his radio. "Dispatch, I've got a possible 1029. Send backup." Lisa knew exactly what he was doing. 1029. Wanted person. He was deliberately escalating. "You're making a mistake, Officer Reynolds." Reynolds gave her a mocking smirk. "Because last I checked, refusing to comply is a mistake." He nodded toward her SUV. "Now step aside." Before she could say another word, he yanked open the driver's side door. Lisa forced herself to remain still. Reynolds rifled through the center console before popping open the glove compartment. Papers and personal items were tossed onto the seat without care. "Got yourself a little business running out of this car, Colonel?" he muttered. "Smuggling something, maybe?" Lisa let out a slow breath. "You're crossing a line." Reynolds barely spared her a glance. "Lady, I don't see a line." He moved to the passenger side, throwing open the door and tearing through the compartments. Lisa refused to react. Instead, she reached into her pocket for her phone. She knew exactly who to call. Without a word, she turned slightly and discreetly scrolled through her contacts. "This is Colonel Washington," she said smoothly. "I need a favor right now." Reynolds was too busy tearing through her belongings to notice that the game had already changed. Reynolds's frustration grew with every passing second. He had expected to find something to justify his actions. But the more he dug, the less he found. Lisa stood just a few feet away, still as a statue. Her silence only made Reynolds angrier. He slammed the passenger door shut, turning to her with a sneer. "Where is it?" Lisa blinked. "Where is what?" Reynolds let out a sharp breath. "Whatever you're hiding. Fake credentials, stolen goods, drugs." He stopped himself, realizing how ridiculous he sounded. "You think this is a joke?" He stepped closer. "You think because you act calm, I'm just supposed to let this go?" Lisa lifted her chin slightly. "Are you finished?" Reynolds scoffed. "Oh, we're just getting started." He pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, I need K9 support for a full vehicle sweep. Possible narcotics." Then his radio crackled. An incoming call. "Unit 13, hold all further action. You have an urgent call coming through from command. Patch in immediately." Reynolds frowned. "Command?" He switched frequencies. "This is Officer Reynolds. Go ahead." There was a beat of silence, then a voice, sharp, authoritative, and furious. "Officer, Reynolds, this is Captain Mitchell. What the hell do you think you're doing?" Reynolds stiffened. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "You are unlawfully detaining Colonel Lisa Washington, a highly decorated officer of the United States Army. You will immediately cease your actions, stand down, and escort her to the station for a formal apology. Now." Reynolds swallowed. "Sir." You what? You ignored protocol? You illegally searched her vehicle? You harassed a senior officer like some rookie with a power trip?" Lisa remained where she was, expression calm, posture unshaken. Reynolds's gaze snapped to her, his blood boiling. This wasn't right. How did they know? The radio crackled again. "Get in your car, drive her to the station, and report to my office." "You better pray I don't have your badge by the end of the day." The line went dead. Reynolds stood frozen, humiliation scorching through him. Lisa stepped forward, smooth, effortless. She met his gaze with the same unshakable calm she had maintained. "All along." "Are you finished?" she asked again, voice steady. Reynolds's jaw clenched so hard it ached. He had no choice. Wordlessly, he stalked toward his patrol car and yanked open the door. "Get in." Lisa exhaled, calmly picking up her belongings before walking toward the patrol car with measured steps. She slid into the back seat, not as a suspect, but as someone in complete control. Reynolds slammed his door, white-knuckling the steering wheel. The tires screeched as they pulled away. Lisa settled in, gaze forward. "Drive safe, Officer Reynolds." Reynolds gritted his teeth so hard he tasted blood. The drive to the station was silent. When they arrived, Reynolds yanked the door open and climbed out. Inside, the air shifted the moment they walked through the doors. Officers stole glances, some exchanging whispers. Others avoided looking at Reynolds entirely. The front desk sergeant pressed the intercom. "She's here." A few seconds later, the police chief emerged from his office, a graying man with a squared jaw. "Chief Warren Mitchell." "Colonel Washington," Mitchell greeted, voice clipped but respectful. He turned to Reynolds. "My office, now." Once inside, Mitchell shut the door. Reynolds stood at attention, his fingers twitching. Lisa took her seat, crossing one leg over the other. The chief turned his glare on Reynolds. "I want to know what made you think detaining a United States Army colonel was a good idea." Reynolds's jaw tightened. "Sir, she refused to comply. She didn't have ID on her." Mitchell's stare hardened. "Because you should have run her name. Because you should have followed protocol. Instead, you decided to harass someone who outranks you in every possible way." "Sir, save it." Mitchell leaned forward. "The Pentagon called me. You've just embarrassed this entire department. Mitchell turned to Lisa. Colonel Washington, I'd like to formally apologize for this department's failure today. This should never have happened. Lisa nodded. I expect to see procedural changes to prevent this from happening again, Chief. Mitchell gave a firm nod. Understood. Then he turned to Reynolds. Apologize. Now. Reynolds froze, his fists clenched. But he had no choice. I apologize. Lisa tilted her head slightly. For what? Reynolds's jaw twitched. I apologize, Colonel, for the inconvenience. Mitchell's voice cut through the tension. Try again. Reynolds swallowed hard. I apologize for my actions today. I was wrong. The words sounded poisonous coming from him. It won't happen again. Mitchell exhaled sharply. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending review. If I had my way, I'd have your badge tonight. Reynolds flinched, humiliation settling deep. Lisa stood, smoothing out her blazer. I appreciate your cooperation, Chief. She turned her gaze to Reynolds. You set me up, he muttered. Lisa lifted a brow. I didn't have to. Reynolds's nostrils flared, his rage barely contained. Mitchell snapped. I don't want to hear another word from you. Reynolds shut his mouth, but the look in his eyes was clear. This wasn't over. The next morning, Lisa slid into her SUV's driver's seat. Though the world seemed calm, she had learned to recognize threats before they revealed themselves. She had learned one simple truth. When a man like Reynolds gets humiliated, he doesn't let it go. Some men understood failure and moved forward. Others let it consume them. The thought of changing her route had barely crossed her mind before she dismissed it. Making accommodations for a man who had already tried to control her was out of the question. She remained steady, her grip on the wheel relaxed, her breathing even. And then she saw it. A dark-colored sedan appeared in her rearview mirror, moving into her lane, closing the distance with purpose. Her fingers flexed over the steering wheel, not in nervousness but in calculation. A normal driver wouldn't hold position in someone's blind spot for this long. Then, without warning, the sedan accelerated sharply. Lisa's body braced before her mind fully confirmed the threat. Her gaze flicked to the side mirror, and she locked eyes with the driver, Reynolds. Out of uniform, his face twisted in rage, his hands gripping the wheel with barely contained fury. He edged closer, pressing into her space, trying to force her toward the shoulder. She didn't panic. Instead, she let the SUV drift slightly, making him believe he had trapped her. Reynolds lunged for the gap, and at the last second, she cut the wheel sharply in the opposite direction, breaking his trajectory. His tires screeched as he overcorrected. Lisa remained in control, watching his frustration as he realized she wasn't going to panic. Reynolds adjusted quickly, pushing forward again, more erratic, more aggressive, his car veering toward her with reckless determination. Their vehicles weaved in a dangerous battle, the landscape shifting as the open highway gave way to a more desolate stretch. Lisa knew Reynolds had led her here on purpose. Up ahead, the highway curved, narrowing into a remote stretch lined with trees. Reynolds slowed his car, easing toward the middle of the road. Lisa eased off the gas, fingers flexing on the wheel. She knew this moment was inevitable, and now there was nothing left to do but finish what had already begun. Lisa slowed her SUV to a stop as Reynolds threw his sedan into park. His door flew open and he stormed out. You think you're clever, don't you? His voice carried across the empty road. You think this little game of yours means you've won? With deliberate ease, she stepped out, closing the door behind her, meeting his stare with composed intensity. "If I remember correctly," she said, "you were the one chasing me." Reynolds laughed humorlessly. "I call it fixing a mistake." "And what mistake would that be?" "Letting you walk away. Letting you embarrass me." He stepped closer. "You don't get how people like you don't just get to challenge authority and get away with it." Lisa inhaled slowly. "No, I think following the law makes me better than you." Reynolds's nostrils flared. "You think that badge meant something to me?" "No, but it was the only thing keeping you from making a real mistake. And now you're spiraling." Reynolds pointed at her, hand trembling with anger. "You sit there acting so untouchable. You think you can push and walk away without consequences? This isn't a game, Reynolds. You lost because you were wrong, and instead of facing that, you blamed me." Reynolds stepped forward. "You don't get to decide how this ends." Lisa squared her shoulders. "No, but you do. You can walk away now, before you do something you can't come back from." "That's not how this is going to go." Lisa sighed. "Then I guess you really are as predictable as I thought." Reynolds lunged at her, his movements sloppy, fueled by rage, rather than skill. Lisa sidestepped effortlessly as his fist cut through empty air. He came at her again, his second swing wilder than the first. Lisa ducked beneath it, her elbow snapping forward into his ribs, making him stumble. "You," he snarled, "think you're so damn superior, don't you?" Reynolds charged again, trying to tackle her. Lisa waited until the last second, then shifted her weight, twisting as she hooked her foot behind his leg. Reynolds hit the ground hard, disoriented. He had expected to be on top, but instead was sprawled across the asphalt. "Are you finished?" Lisa asked. The question landed like a slap. Reynolds pushed himself up, his face twisted between rage and disbelief. With a growl, he lunged again. This time he feinted left before swinging right. It was smarter, but still too slow. Lisa caught his wrist mid-swing, twisting it with an efficiency that sent pain up his arm, forcing him to his knees. "You don't know when to quit, do you?" she asked, her voice low. With a calculated pivot, she yanked his trapped arm forward while sweeping his leg out, sending him crashing to the pavement again. Harder than before. Reynolds groaned, pushing himself up once more. He should have stayed down. "Stay down, Reynolds," she warned. With a snarl of rage, he lunged again. This time he caught her. His fist collided with her ribs. He swung again, clipping her jaw. Lisa took a step back, shaking off the sting. If he wanted to draw this out, she would let him. He charged again. Lisa sidestepped sharply, and before he could adjust, she hooked her arm around his throat, yanking him backward into a brutal chokehold. Reynolds choked, his hands clawing at her arm. He bucked, tried to twist. Out. But Lisa tightened the hold, forcing him down. "It's over, Reynolds," she said, her voice calm. "You're done." His movements became slower, weaker. Finally, Reynolds let out a strangled sound, the last remnants of his pride slipping away. "Please," he whispered. Lisa didn't move. What was that? "Please?" "Let me go!" Lisa held the choke for a few more seconds before releasing him. She shoved him forward as he collapsed, gasping for air. Lisa pushed herself up, ignoring the dull ache in her ribs and jaw. "You brought this on yourself. You could have walked away." She pulled out her phone. "This is Colonel Washington. I need officers dispatched to my location immediately. I am reporting an assault and attempted vehicular homicide." Reynolds stiffened. "Wait," he croaked. "You don't have to do this. You came after me. You tried to run me off the road. You attacked me, and now you'll face the consequences. Sirens approached. Reynolds's jaw tightened as the last bit of resistance bled out of him. He wasn't just physically beaten, he was finished. Officers arrived quickly. "Colonel Washington," a sergeant greeted. "Dispatch said this was serious." Lisa nodded. "This man attacked me, attempted to run me off the road. I defended myself. Cuff him," the sergeant ordered. Officers stepped forward, cuffing Reynolds. Before he was put in the patrol car, his gaze locked onto Lisa one last time. Lisa held his stare. "You did this to yourself." The door slammed shut. As they drove away, Lisa exhaled. Justice had been served, not just for her, but for everyone who had ever endured what men like Reynolds inflicted on them. If you like this story, please subscribe and share. Have you ever stood up to someone who misused their authority? Tell me in the comments.